The difference between a strong man and a weak man has never been talent, intelligence, or even opportunity. The difference is impulse. Weak men obey their impulses. Strong men command them. And no one embodied this command more fiercely than the Roman generals, men trained to stay calm while leading thousands, men who made decisions that determined nations, men who couldn't afford emotional slip-ups or chaotic reactions. They didn't master impulses because they were born disciplined, they mastered impulses because their survival depended on it. The Stoics lived with the same mentality: if you cannot control yourself, you cannot control anything around you. A man ruled by impulse is a man ruled by everything. One insult ruins his day. One craving destroys his discipline. One emotion derails his decisions. One distraction pulls him off his path. One moment of anger ruins weeks of progress. One moment of fear makes him retreat from opportunity. Impulses break men long before life does. A Roman general understood this deeply. He trained himself to pause before reacting, to analyze before attacking, to breathe before deciding. Because the first person a general had to conquer was always himself. Impulses are not the voice of reason, they're the voice of survival. Your mind evolved to protect you, not elevate you. It tells you to avoid effort, avoid danger, avoid discomfort, avoid uncertainty. It pushes you toward whatever feels good in the moment, even if it destroys you in the long term. A man who follows impulse becomes a slave to his own biology. A man who masters impulse becomes a weapon, precise, intentional, unstoppable. The Stoics practiced impulse mastery by training the gap between stimulus and response. That tiny space where your whole life is decided. Weak men shrink that space. Strong men expand it. When emotion rises, they observe instead of obey. When fear rises, they breathe instead of retreat. When temptation rises, they question instead of indulge. When anger rises, they hold the line instead of lashing out. Impulse is reaction. Mastery is control. A Roman general couldn't afford to react emotionally. One impulsive command could cost hundreds of lives. One moment of panic could shift the outcome of a war. One slip of anger could destroy alliances. So he trained himself to appear calm even when everything inside him was shaking. He understood that discipline is not the absence of chaos, it's leadership over it. You build the same power in your everyday life. Every time you choose discipline instead of impulse, you sharpen the mind. Every time you override a craving, you reinforce control. Every time you stay silent instead of reacting, you raise your authority. Every time you hold a boundary instead of folding, you strengthen your identity. Impulses weaken you because impulses are short-term. They prioritize comfort over growth, pleasure over purpose, emotion over logic. But the Stoics knew that long-term strength is built on short-term restraint. A man who masters impulse becomes dangerous, because you can't predict him, provoke him, or push him. He acts from intention, not emotion. He chooses direction, not distraction. He carries himself with the quiet confidence of someone who knows he won't betray himself in the next moment of pressure. Most men crumble because impulse makes decisions for them. They spend money impulsively. They speak impulsively. They react impulsively. They date impulsively. They quit impulsively. They sabotage themselves impulsively. A Roman general would call this a man who cannot hold his own line. To master your impulses, you must begin where the Stoics began: observation. The ability to catch the emotion rising before it controls you. Anger has a temperature. Fear has a voice. Temptation has a timing. Impulse always announces itself, but only a disciplined man hears it. Once you see the impulse for what it is, you no longer become it. The next step is command. Not forcing emotion down, that creates pressure. Not denying emotion exists, that creates blindness. But acknowledging it and choosing your action with clarity. A Roman general didn't suppress fear. He guided it. He didn't suppress anger. He redirected it. He didn't suppress doubt. He moved anyway. This is the mark of inner leadership, acting from principle, not emotion. A man who masters impulses becomes calm under pressure because he no longer reacts, he chooses. Calm isn't the absence of intensity. Calm is control over intensity. When you master your impulses, you build a reputation without even trying. People sense the difference. They sense restraint. They sense strength. They sense self-command. They sense someone who cannot be manipulated or pushed into losing composure. Your presence becomes heavier. Your boundaries become clearer. Your decisions become sharper. Your discipline becomes automatic. Because impulse loses its power every time you refuse to obey it. This is why Stoics were respected, why Roman generals were feared, and why strong men today still carry the same energy. They do not let their emotions choose their direction. You master impulse by practicing small wins daily. Holding the silence. Choosing discipline when no one is watching. Being intentional with your reactions. Taking the harder path because the harder path forges the stronger mind. Impulse wants you weak. Restraint makes you unstoppable. A Roman general would tell you this: the greatest victory is not the one you win on the battlefield, it's the one you win inside yourself. And the moment you become the kind of man who commands his impulses, you become the kind of man no challenge, no criticism, no temptation, and no chaos can conquer. Because the man who controls himself controls everything.